Greetings. Welcome to Riverside Center for Innovation Boost Your Business webinar series. My name is James Myers Jr., Director of Community and Business Development. During these interesting times, one of our goals at RCI is to help you transform into a digital citizen. We want you to be aware of the business tools with technology that are available and know how to use them. To gain access to our webinar series, please register and become a member of our Diversity Business Resource Center at dbrcpittsburgh.org. And you can find our website at riversidecenterforinnovation.com. Good afternoon. Welcome to Riverside Center for Innovation Boost Your Business webinar series. Today you will hear from Kim Bakke, business banker at Dollar Bank. She will be leading a presentation about PPP and pandemic debt, understanding what you signed up for. Just a quick commercial about Riverside Center for Innovation. We want you to be sure to visit our Facebook page at Riverside Center for Innovation, visit our website at riversidecenterforinnovation.com, and to gain access to our webinar series, we want you to make sure to sign up for the Diversity Business Resource Center at dbrcpittsburgh.org. We'll lead into Kim's presentation today and take questions in our Q&A box, but right now, I want to introduce her so we can get started, and this webinar will be simple and easy to follow.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I do have a little presentation, so I don't know if, Emily, you want to share the screen so I can grab the presentation, because I don't have it. There we go. Pardon me here to just fix this. First, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Kim Bakke. I have been in business banking for about 20 years. And this is the first time that I have ever seen anything like this in the banking world. It really has been incredible, but I'm going to give you my insight and the information that I have of what's happening today and this wonderful pandemic that we're living through right now. I'm going to cover a couple different areas. There we go. Topics of conversation. We're going to cover the COVID-19 CARE Act, federal, state, and local levels, EIDL, payroll protection, the wonderful PPP, and if I live another day without hearing those words, it'll be good. Repayment or forgivable, which is the big question everybody seems to have, and what do you do if you need more or less of regular working capital? There's a typo there, so pardon me there. So let's just get to it. I'm trying to squish over. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, COVID-19. The big reason why all of this was rolled out is to really reduce the amount of unemployment that there is out there. You know, unemployment numbers as of this week have just skyrocketed. You know, people are starting to throw around depression, recession, and we're there, folks. We're there. So when they rolled out these programs to help businesses and employees, employers, they wanted to try to mitigate some of those unemployment numbers. So they rolled out the CARE Act, which is a phenomenal program. However, the government tried to roll it out so quickly, and the banks tried to roll it out so quickly, there's a lot of unknowns. So I'm going to preface the whole presentation on that still today, as of May 8th, we still do not have some information that I'd love to be able to share with you. We just don't have it. The first thing is when you're looking at any kind of information on help out there, you want to go to three areas. One, you want to go to the SBA website, two, your state, local website, and also reach out to your local nonprofits and different organizations like Riverside and a lot of the other economic development resources that you have in your community. But first and foremost, because the federal money is forgivable, I would definitely absolutely take some time and comb through the SBA.gov website and make sure you are on a .gov website. It's very, very important. There's so much false information out there that it kind of tunnels you to websites that really aren't part of the SBA. I would also try to go on the Pennsylvania State website. There you're going to have information on different statewide programs that are available to you, not to mention the unemployment and unemployment for business owners that has rolled out. And then your local organizations, always a good place to go when you need help to maybe navigate through some of the larger organizations. So let's first talk about the EIDL application and that loan. I don't know too much about that other than the fact that people are getting it, number one, and number two, that you apply for just through the SBA.gov website. And that's a one-off. I have no confirmation numbers. I don't know if you get it unless it's deposited into your account at our bank. The application is pretty seamless. You just fill it out online, and typically you get a confirmation. Some people had gotten correspondence in the middle, and some people, they've mysteriously showed up at $2,000 or $3,000 in their account. So that process seems to be working. The only tidbit of information I will give you about the EIDL in working with the PPP, if you receive the EIDL funds before April 3rd, it's not going to really matter on the PPP. However, if you have received them after April 3rd, they can be taken off the top of your PPP. Now, if it all comes together and they're funded together, that's probably going to have to be rectified at the back end whenever you go through your 8 weeks of payroll. But EIDL, I just put a little snippet on there just because people were asking me about it. I know right now you can't even apply because the funds have been exhausted, for the exception of maybe agriculture or something like that. But if you have applied for it, we can take a minimal amount of questions on that because we're truly just not involved too much other than how it reflects or affects your PPP. So what is the Payroll Protection Program? This is not a working capital loan. I think the one thing that people confuse this whole program is, well, wait a minute, I have a business and I need money. I get it. However, this particular program is for payroll protection. It is not to do anything but support your payroll at 75%. And then 25% of the additional funds can be used for utilities, mortgage interest, and leases, things like that. And it can be used for nothing else. It can't be used to pay your truck payment for your business. Say if you had a landscaping company, it cannot be used to pay any payment on backhoes or anything like that. It has to be used for payroll at 75%. And that's the whole caveat of this whole program. Believe it or not, money is still available. I just got out of a conference call this morning, and there's a significant amount of money available still to the public. So we are still taking applications. We are still working through the program. And I think because there's fewer applications, the volume is down a little bit. So the service is a little bit more expedient than it was at the beginning, maybe say on the first round. You can only apply through the PPP program through your local bank that is participating in the program. Or always start with your own institution. So wherever you bank, go there first. A lot of banks actually have said, forget it, we're not taking any more applications. And then you just find another lender that's participating in the program, and hopefully that help you out. So what will you need for the application? If you have not yet applied, what do you need to gather up? Well, you need the actual application. I would let the bank of your choice provide you with that application. Because it's pretty standard. However, there was a little bit of a mix up at the beginning where the SBA changed the application. So making sure we all have the right one, I would let your bank give you the application. They'll probably give you some sort of a payroll calculator to figure out what your payroll costs are. And then we're going to also need payroll documentation. So that is anything from tax returns to ADP reports to QuickBook reports, anything that has anything to do with payroll. And what do we mean when we mean payroll? Anything that is on your pay stub, that is what payroll is. So anything that's reported on that pay stub is payroll, and that you can put onto the payroll calculator. If you're a sole proprietor or an LLC, a single member LLC, or a 1099 person as a consultant, anything like that, you can apply for the PPP loan. Absolutely. However, we will need the 2019 Schedule C, because this program goes from 2019 to 2020. So we need that information for that time frame. So I realize the government has extended the tax filing to July. However, if you want to participate in this program, you need to get your taxes done as quickly as possible. So continuing on with PPP, what does the process look like? The process is actually, at the beginning it was a little bit off kilter because we were trying to roll out this program to help as many people as we could, as quickly as we could. At the beginning, it was actually a manual process that we did, but within the 3 or 4 days, we actually had a more automated process. Our process, now this is just our institution. I can't speak to any other institution, but with Dollar Bank's process of the PPP, the application is taken by a banker or our website. So say if Emily was my client, I'd say, Emily, okay, here's the application, here is the calculator, here is a checklist of all the documents that we'll need. Emily will go back to her office, consult her CPA, her bookkeeper, treasurer, what have you, gather all those documents. Now, our process is that you send all of those documents directly to me. I then do my lender application, send it to verification. Now, verification is a very crucial part to this whole process, because what we do is we take the information, give it to our underwriters. Our underwriters are going to look through your payroll reports, your tax returns, your Schedule Cs, and make sure whatever you're putting on your calculator can indeed be part of the forgivable part of the loan. So if you're adding different things to the calculator, we'll probably take them out. If you have 1099 employees, which a lot of people think, excuse me, a lot of people think, hey, I have 20 employees, but they're all 1099. You have 0 employees. The 1099 folks are basically just contractors, so you cannot claim them as paid employees through the Payroll Protection Program. Excuse me. So they have to go and file their own PPP. You can only file for PPP for employees that you actually pay with regular W-2 employees. Or like I said, if you're a sole proprietor or a small LLC, you can pay yourself through this particular program. So once the application goes through verification, and we look at every single loan that comes through our desk, because we want to make sure that these loans are forgiven. So we're going through them and meticulously making sure that everything that is reported is verifiable. Once that is verified, the underwriter then says, okay, Kim, Emily's company has been verified. Please submit the application. We go into our system, submit the application. Emily typically would get 2 or 3 emails saying, here's what you applied for, here are the PPP guidelines, permission for signing electronically, and then maybe if there's any additional documentation needed, we would ask it at that time. Once you open up those emails, then you would go ahead and get a DocuSign email, because after you hit go on that, after the verification, the process goes pretty quickly. Or it has been anyway on our end for the last week or so. Once you hit go on that application and you start getting the emails, you also get a DocuSign document. And basically at that period of time, you're signing for the loan as a company. So once you sign that, the next step is funding. So once you get that signature area, you've got your PPP. A lot of people have been surprised in that DocuSign. It gives terms and conditions of the loan. And I get a lot of phone calls saying, well, wait a minute, you're saying that I got $50,000, but I have to pay this back in 18 months. Yes, you do. You have to pay that back if you're not using the funds as outlined in the program. So we do have to make it a loan document, a loan closing, because ultimately any bank that is participating in this program is basically funding these loans. The SBA will then give us the monies back if they are forgiven, but we are basically fronting all of this money out to the public. So that's another reason why we want to make sure everything is validated the right way for our clients as well. But once that, once the documents go out to you and the funding happens, probably, I mean, currently it's been happening within 3 to 5 days. So people have been getting their money within a week's time of application, which is fantastic. And then once you get that money, I would just, that day, say if today's May 8th and I got my PPP money today, that is when the clock starts ticking. That is when that 8 weeks starts. So if you got funded today, we'll be contacting you 8 weeks after today to start reconciling the PPP forgiveness part of the loan. And again, here, I can't speak to everybody, but that's just our process. Now, if you're a nonprofit, it's the same process. However, it is on a more manual basis, but it is the same process. You're going to get verified. Your application will be submitted. You'll get an SBA number, and then ultimately you'll be funded. Now, to talk about funding and forgiveness, as of today, May 8th, 2020, there has not been any documentation from the SBA with specifics on how this loan is to be forgiven. Now, there is some general information online, but there is no clear spreadsheet or checklist as of today. So with a lot of the questions that I'm sure you may have, I won't be able to answer them because we don't have a lot of direction at this point. We have a good idea, but do not have specifics from the SBA as of today. The loan amounts will be forgiven if they are used to cover the payroll costs, your mortgage interest, rent, utilities, those costs during an 8-week period of time after the loan is granted. So if you got funded today, that's today. If you got funded in the first round of PPP, you're in this already for 3 weeks. So I'm hoping that folks are really keeping good records, because that's going to be the important part of this, is keeping accurate records. What you're going to do as soon as you get funded, you're going to look at bringing back workers, and it has to be the same amount of workers that you had prior to the pandemic. So here is a good example that I did pull off the SBA website. If you're a small business who had 10 employees prior to the pandemic, and now after receiving the PPP loan funds, you only have 6 employees, then your loan forgiveness request will be reduced to 60% of the total amount eligible expenses. If the business brought back 10 or more, then there's no reduction in the forgivable amount of the loan. In other words, small businesses who have kept or who rehire their entire workforce will be forgiven. Now, what that says is it will be reduced by 60%. So that might mean that you owe X amount of dollars at the back end of this loan. Now, the payment schedule for the PPP loans, the first payment starts 6 months after the loan. And it turns out actually for 24 months. It's like amortized over 24 months, but the payments are due within 18 months. So whatever isn't forgiven, those payments will come due in 6 months. Forgiveness and what to do. Number 1 on the hit parade, if you have to open up a new account, or if you have to make another area in QuickBooks. If you're a pen and paper person, keep good records. Keep finite number records in QuickBooks, somewhere where you can easily take this date to this date, pull off a report, and be able to send it to the bank of your choice, the bank that you did your PPP through, but make sure you know exactly what you've spent the funds on. 75% of those funds have to be spent on payroll. 25% no matter what. 25% utilities, lease, mortgage interest. Say you get a $20,000 PPP. $15,000 has to be used for payroll. And then the other 25%, which is $5,000, can be used for utilities, lease, things like that. And here again, if you have a landscaping company and your truck's your office, that's not part of the deal. It has to be for the operating expenses within an office. But here again, as long as you're spending that 75% on payroll, the bets are pretty good with that loan will be forgiven. Keep in mind that this isn't the small business protection program, it's the paycheck protection program. A lot of folks here, government, SBA, business, grant, free money, I'm going to get this loan because I can. Well, that's fine and dandy, but there are a lot of people who have received $20, $30, $40, $50, $80,000 PPP loans. I'm not so worried about the clients who've received $6,000, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000, but the folks that are using the funds that were earmarked for payroll protection, if they're using them for anything else other than this, the payment is going to be unbelievable. Because if you think about it, if you get a $50,000 PPP, think about buying a new work truck. They're $50,000, $60,000. Pay off that truck in 18 months. So it's going to be a very interesting time here in the next 6 months to a year, because I don't know that everybody realizes that it absolutely positively has to be used for payroll by 75%.
Hey,
Yes.
hey, Kim, can we pause for a few questions? Because they're loading up pretty heavy in the Q&A. I just wanted to know if you were comfortable at this point in the presentation.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Go ahead. Fire away.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. So I'll start with our first question. Comes from Valisa Dutriel. She says, I had a total of 10 employees on February 15th. However, one of my employees went on maternity leave as of March 1st. Would I be responsible to pay the employee on maternal leave with PPP proceeds, even though they weren't officially on payroll as of March 16th, when we officially temporarily closed?
Well, is that person going to be an employee forever? I guess is my question. The one thing you have to remember about PPP is if you had 10 employees, whatever their names are, and as long as you have 10 employees here, the HR particulars of maternity leave or sick leave, retirement, what have you, I would, you just have to think of it almost abstractly, that you want to think of it as just as a FTEs, your full-time employees. And I'm not sure what the question is because it sounds specific to a maternity leave, but you really just have to think about head count.
Yes, so she said they are coming back.
Okay, then pay her. Then
Okay.
Yeah, even if you're not doing anything. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people say, well, geez, I can't even open in this 8 weeks. Then you can't open, but you still have to use it for payroll. And the thing is this loan isn't the best thing for everybody. There are a lot of people that once they realize the terms and conditions of the loan, that a lot of people had said, no, I don't want it. That's okay. Or they've given it back already.
Thanks, Kim. Our next question comes from Jeremy Gans. He's saying that he had gotten approved for the PPP money and it's already in his account, and he just got approved for self-employment yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that you can get the unemployment that you have to pay back 100% of the PPP. Is this true?
Well, here again, we don't have too much guidance. I would absolutely positively consult your CPA. The payroll protection is for payroll. So if you are a sole proprietor and you applied for unemployment, you have one or the other. You either have the PPP or the unemployment. If you just got funded and you're gonna, if you choose to take the unemployment, then take the unemployment. But then I would not sign up for the PPP. But that's completely up to you. That's just my own personal opinion, because you probably will have to pay that back because it has to be one or the other. You've got to bring people back, even if it is just yourself.
He also mentioned that when the PPP got deposited in his account, there was 1,000 EIDL payment also.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that was probably something that they applied for separate from the PPP. So when this thing all rolled out, people were applying everywhere. So they're really not sure where some of this money is coming from because they applied, to 10 different organizations or programs. The EIDL is a separate deal. He applied for that through the SBA website, and the PPP was applied for at the banking institution. that he banks at. So depending on when he applied for the EIDL, it may or may not affect the PPP at end of the 8 weeks because of that April 3rd date I talked about at the beginning of the program.
Thank you for that, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question is from Judy at Lavana Boutique, not Judy from RCI, so this is a separate Judy. She's asking, what if you got the EIDL advance and the PPP? Will the EIDL be deducted from the amount of the PPP that is forgiven?
Did they get the EIDL prior to April 3rd? If they did, then they should be good to go. If they got it after April 3rd, it could come off the back end of the PPP. So when you're reconciling the PPP at the end, say if you got $15,000 and a $3,000 EIDL, that $3,000 EIDL might have to be part of that PPP.
Okay. So I'm looking at this next question here, and I'm not sure. Well, I guess I'll let you answer it. So it says, basically, how can you bring your employees back when your business is closed and they can't work remotely?
Then you pay them.
Okay.
Simple as that. Simple as that. You've got to make that call. We're not saying that everybody needs to take the PPP loan. We are advising to look at the program very, very carefully. Yeah, if you sign up for the PPP loan, and even if you're closed to this day, you pay your people to stay home.
Sounds good. Thank you for that, Kim. Her next question is, how do you calculate partial forgiveness?
Well, here you're going to look at the example that I had a couple slides ago. It's going to take into consideration how many full-time employees you had at the beginning before the pandemic, how many people you were hiring back, and it's all in percentages of how many people you're bringing back. So say if you got a $20,000 PPP, and you can use 13,000 of it for payroll. Well, then 2,000 of it probably won't be forgiven, and you'll have to pay that back over 18 months at 1% interest. So, it really depends on the specific company.
Thank you for that, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question comes from Jessica Setzler. She is asking, when you say funded today, do you mean the money deposited in the account or the day you signed? The
day the money's in the account. Funding day. And that was, at the beginning there was some discrepancy on when does that clock start ticking, and it is the day of funding.
Sounds good. Another question we got coming in from Judy at Lavana Boutique. Is it the same number of workers or same number of FTEs?
Heads. So you have a 10-person head count at the beginning, have a 10-person head count at the end.
Her next question is, I had people who worked occasionally, so 6 to 7 people total, but only 2.5 FTEs. So do I need 6 to 7 people, or can I have 3 people working 2.5 FTEs worth?
I would make it easy on yourself and just look at that. That's a really specific question, because we're getting to finite numbers. I would just really try to keep it to, part-time, full-time, and head count. If I started my pandemic with 2 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees, depending on the hours, that's what I would bring back.
Okay.
It has to mirror what you left things at.
Okay, thank you. For our people that have questions in the Q&A, we did answer about 10 questions so far. So I do want to give you a chance to get back into your presentation, Kim, and then we'll go back into the Q&A so we can do a little bit of answering.
Sure. Okay, so how do I get back to my presentation? Sorry. Okay, here we go. And then what do we do if we need more money? So we've gotten through the PPP, we brought people back to work, life is good, but because of the pandemic, because we were closed down for so long, what do we do next? Well, we really don't know. We're not sure if the SBA is going to be rolling out additional funding. You know, are you looking for additional working capital? Maybe during the pandemic, during your downtime at home, you could bid a whole bunch of different jobs, and you've got a whole bunch of jobs coming up. You know, what happens if I need additional funds and there's no, maybe say, programs out there? Well, if you have jobs and you have some work and you need to get out there, you need to start making a plan, because, you know, the economy is very cautious, and banks are going to be very, very cautious, and we're going to need a whole bunch more information going forward. Nothing's set in stone today, but we certainly are going to need a lot more information as far as, you know, how did this pandemic affect your business? You know, if you come to me and call me and say, hey, Kim, you know what, I need a $50,000 line of credit. How do I get that? You know, if the SBA doesn't have a program and you want some traditional financing, what do I do? Well, I am always going to ask the questions: why, for what purpose? Do you have any kind of documentation? Who, what, why, when, how? Tax returns. I understand that the government has pushed the tax deadline to July 15th, but if you were thinking about any kind of lending whatsoever, it would probably be in your best interest to get your taxes done ASAP. Because it's going to be very, very difficult for lenders to be looking at numbers from 2018. So, you know, when we're looking at underwriting a loan, we're looking at numbers from 2018, maybe self-prepared 19 financials, and then into a boom, here's 2020 with a big hole of a pandemic in the middle of your finances. So, you know, documentation, information is going to be very, very important. For right now, I think gone are the days of, hey, Kim, I need a $50,000 line just because I'd like to have one for my business. You know, we're going to be a lot more cautious and conscientious about why you need X amount of dollars. You know, it's not a bad idea, especially if you have an active business that maybe has stayed in business but maybe decreased a little bit, to document that. Document what happened on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. Maybe even do a business plan of where are we now, what are we going to be doing in the next month, and what do I see things looking at in 2 years. So when you do apply for maybe some additional financing or working capital, the bank knows that you have a good idea of what's going on, or you completely understand your business. You know, it's going to be very, very difficult to not fully understand the business, what it has gone through, and where you've been, where you're going, kind of thing. So I think documenting things is going to be very, very important in the coming months. You know, the last little piece I have here is, will the bank consider my PPP or other SBA loans? Absolutely. If the SBA loans are not forgiven, we absolutely have to take that into consideration for that 18-month repayment of the loan. So that is going to, if anybody has been to our classes, you know, it's about global cash flow, and that will impact the cash flow when a bank looks at lending in addition to what you currently have, or for the future after the pandemic, to, you know, get your business started again. And then the last slide, that is just me. If for some reason you do not feel comfortable asking a question in this venue, please do not hesitate calling me, although it's great because I gave you my number that doesn't have a digit. So that helps with voicemail, so that's good. But it is actually 487-3852. And feel free, if I don't get back to you that minute or that hour, I always do get back to people, even if it's at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I feel that's very, very important. And in uncertain times, I have made it a personal duty to make sure that every question gets answered, even if it is an I don't know, or here's another resource. But I truly believe it's very important. And today is absolutely crucial that people are informed, or at least have somebody to talk to. Like I said, even if I don't know, I'll let you know when the answer could be coming. Either that, you can certainly send me an email and say, hey, I have a quick question from today's presentation, or I'd like to apply for the PPP. I'm a person that loves to talk because I'd rather talk to you on the phone than email back and forth. Plus, it's just a matter of time as well. I mean, a 3 or 4 minute conversation would really equal 6 or 7 emails sometimes. So if you do have questions, phone call is always the best. It's the easiest for me anyway. Unless I shoot somebody an email, early in the morning or later in the evening, then you can get it at your convenience. But if you need to discuss in detail the PPP or applying for it, don't hesitate giving me a call. Either that, you say, Kim, I want to apply for the PPP, send me an email, I'll send you the application, calculator, and the checklist. And that's it for me. So I wanted to leave plenty enough time for questions because I know this is a hot button and people have a lot of questions about this, and I will answer every question that I can, and we can go from there.
Thank you for providing information, Kim. We do have about several questions in our Q&A box. I'll start with our first. It's from Dawn Matthews, and she's asking, if you're a sole proprietor, how do you prove you paid yourself so the loan is forgivable?
I know, isn't that crazy? Sole proprietors, when they apply for the PPP, we're going to ask you for your tax return and your Schedule C. And basically all we are doing is taking that net income from your Schedule C. So you have your business ABC company, you make, $30,000 net income from that business. We basically just take that $30,000, divide it by 12, and that is your average monthly payroll. And then you multiply that by the 2.5, and that's the award that you should get for your PPP. How they're going to have you prove that at the end of the 8 weeks, again, we just don't know. But because you're a sole proprietorship and we are asking for a Schedule C, and we are asking for the 19 Schedule C, or at least the draft, we have a pretty good idea of what you're doing. And as long as the business isn't impacted too much, or you're not going out of business, you should probably, that loan should be forgiven pretty easily. But don't mark my words, because we don't have absolute direction on that yet. But that's how a sole proprietor is figured out. Now, in the same breath, if you're a sole proprietor and you have a negative $14,000 because I'm not paying taxes on my income, I get you. But guess what? You qualify for 0 for the PPP because you have a negative net income on your business.
Thank you for providing the details on that, Kim. Our next question comes from Jessica Setzer. She is mentioning that she received the money on Monday, but that was the beginning of her pay period. So they will be paid at the end of week 3 for the first 2 weeks. When they look at 8 weeks of payroll, do I need to make sure the employees receive the payroll by the end of the 8th week?
The direction that we have is you have to use the funds in 8 weeks for payroll, 75% of payroll. So however that works in the grand scheme of things, you have to make it work in that 8-week period of time. So it has to be spent. So maybe you move up a half a week or extend a week or pay somebody ahead or behind, but those funds have to be used. For particular questions, specific questions like that, I would consult your CPA if you have one, just to be certain. But the SBA, the guidelines that they've given us is that 75% of that has to be used for payroll in that 8-week period of time. How and the specifics of it, a lot of it is up to the employer.
Thanks for that, Kim. Our next question comes from Camille Scantling. Her question is, if you have yourself on payroll as the only employee, is it safe to then pay yourself per your usual operating procedure?
Yes. Yeah. I had a call last night that said, hey, Kim, can I just transfer this money into my account because that's what I always do? No, write yourself a check. Write yourself a check, write yourself a payroll check. This is to Kim Bakke for payroll for, May 2020, and that's your first 4 weeks. And then in another 4 weeks, write it out again if you pay yourself, say monthly or something like that. But I would definitely document, even if you're a sole prop, and if you have one employee, you're the only one, I would document it because it's going to make life a whole lot easier at the end of 8 weeks.
Thanks, Kim. We have a situation that Jeremy Gans wanted to talk about. Basically, the background from his last question was he was approved for the PPP and funds for the PPP in his account already, as well as the EIDL money is in his account. and then he has unemployment that's been accepted. So it's supposed to be paid out this week, and it all happened at the same time. If he takes the unemployment, can he give the PP money back now?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when you give that money back, did he apply through, can you ask him that question? Did he apply through Dollar Bank?
I believe he can hear you, so we'll get that answer to this question in our queue pretty
Okay.
soon.
Yeah, if he
Gone
if he
ahead and
applied-
unmuted Jeremy. Or, well, I tried to. He might have to unmute himself.
Oh,
There he is.
Hey guys,
Hey, Jeremy.
hi, Jeremy.
thank you so much for doing this. By the way,
Sure.
I have my I accept deposits through the Square Marketplace, and they sent me the email on how to sign up for the PPP and all that, and that's what I've used is the Square Marketplace bank, whatever they go through.
Okay, then I would definitely, if you have any intention of paying them back, I would get on that today, because
All right.
what can happen is you could be charged the interest for the days that you have it in your account. So if you got Monday, they could still charge you 4 or 5 days of interest. So I would try to reach out to Square as soon as possible if you have any intentions on giving that back. I mean,
What?
I'm sorry?
No, it just makes more sense that way because when I was going through the unemployment, ideally I would get more money through the unemployment benefits than the PPP. So it doesn't make any sense to keep the PPP.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? You were so smart for recognizing that, because there's a lot of people that are taking the unemployment, PPP, and the IDL, and they're going to have this big balloon bill at the end of the 8 weeks. So that's very, very smart. But I would reach out to them, because you could be due for 4 days interest on your PPP funds.
All right. And since I'm have you on here and I'm taking advantage of you, but the EIDL, do you have to pay that back also? Because I didn't even file for that. Square did that themselves for me, I guess.
Yeah, the EIDL, I think if as long as it's before April 3rd, you're good to go. If it was after April 3rd, that might be a question for Square, how they're going to rectify that. But I believe if you're give you back the PPP, it won't matter.
All right. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jeremy. Our next question comes from Jim Wallace, Kim. He's
Okay.
asking, is an employee's 401k contribution considered payroll for purposes of the PPP?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So there have been a lot of applications where, because it's part of payroll, it's on your pay stub. That's probably the easiest way to think about it when you're applying for the PPP, is that whatever's on that pay stub can go towards the PPP. So yes, as long as you can provide your retirement statements that you've contributed to, yes, we can consider that.
Thank you for that, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question from Kimberly Mania. She's asking, is Dollar Bank accepting PPP applications from business owners who are not currently clients of Dollar Bank?
Yes, we are at this time. Although we are asking them, because the money is funded into a Dollar Bank account, that we would get one open for you during the process.
Okay, her reasoning behind that question is that her current bank is no longer accepting applications. So I guess that's why she was reaching out to Dollar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can give me a call or shoot me an email, and I'll get to the application.
Sounds good. Thank you for that, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Another question comes from Jessica Setzler. She's asked, her question is also concerning about the fact that they use 10 weeks to determine average payroll and there are 8 weeks to spend it. Any thoughts?
Redo the math. Just redo the math to make it fit into the 8 weeks.
Thank you for that, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Our last question that we currently have in the Q&A box comes from Victoria McGinnis, and she is asking, may we use the PPP to pay taxes?
What is it? Payroll taxes? Then yes. If it's real estate taxes, no. If it's back taxes, no. Unemployment back taxes, no. If it's in the 8-week current payroll taxes, yes. But not any other taxes, not local taxes or anything like that, like real estate or taxes. You can do that with the extra 25% of your PPP, but I guess what specific taxes are you talking about is truly my question.
Okay, we'll get her to answer that in the Q&A box. Jim Wallace's follow-up for clarity was he was asking about the employee contributions to the 401k.
No.
The employer.
The employer, yeah. Yeah. So whatever the employer, here again, because it'll be reported on that pay stub, you can put that into the payroll calculator because it's part of payroll. But the employer is a contributor to that as they are the payroll. So it would be part of that pay stub that you can put on the calculator.
Thank you for that, Kim. I was trying to wait to see if Victoria would give us some clarification on what type of taxes she was looking at paying in terms of using the PPP.
Mm-hmm.
I can unmute Victoria. Maybe she can elaborate, or she may have to. Victoria, I tried to unmute you. I think it didn't work.
There we go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes, I wanted to understand what could be included in utilities. So I did understand your explanation about payroll taxes and local municipality taxes. So thank you for that. What's considered utilities?
What do you pay on an average to make your business run as far as utilities? Gas, light, internet, phone?
Okay, so not property taxes.
No.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to understand. I appreciate it.
Yeah. In the Hulu membership and the Netflix membership, no, it's not expensive.
Okay, I'm not the CFO, so I had to figure that out for myself. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you look at the PPP on the application itself, it does say mortgage, interest, or lease. It has nothing to do with taxes. Now, I think there might be a portion of that 25% that you can use that it's not going to be too scrutinized. However, here again, and I preface this whole conversation that we just don't know because the SBA hasn't given us any direction as far as the specifics of, the other 25% of the PPP.
Thank you for that, Kim. It looks like that completes all the questions that were answered in our Q&A chat. I may have spoken too soon. It looks like we do got one that just rolled in.
That's okay.
The question comes from Judy again from Lavana Bratique. She's asking, when are you expecting the SBA to give better direction?
Oh, I don't know. I hope and pray. Every single night I think to myself, it would make my life so easy, but we just don't know. Like I said, I had a conference call this morning and we were hoping for more direction today, but we just don't have it. And they say they're getting it and it's piece by piece. And then some of the pieces are said, but some of the pieces are retracted. It's just, we just don't know. I would check the SBA website, as frequently as once a day, because they could roll it out today. They could rule it out next Friday. We just don't know, but we are anxiously awaiting too. I don't ever like to tell people I just don't know, but I'd rather tell you I just don't know than make something up.
I know, Kim, when we were planning for this, you mentioned that people should just keep in really close contact with whatever banker they worked with to apply for this, which might be a challenge for some of these online types of things. But as much as possible, just keep in touch. We were really hoping the direction from the SBA would be out in time for this. We planned it in advance, assuming so, but no such luck. So just keep in touch with whoever you worked with to apply.
I think it's pretty important to be able to just keep in touch or just shoot them an email. I know a lot of people that applied through like say Cabbage and like, the other, what's the other one? The fellow
Square, he mentioned.
Yeah, Square. And those are awesome because that probably helps that business survive all the time, but sometimes you don't get a real person to ask the question. So, but yeah, maybe send them an email, say, hey, listen, could you, as soon as you find out, but it should be published. You'll hear it on the news probably before we even know about it, that, the prepayment has been out. And the thing is the government, there's been some noise about changing the criteria about prepayment too. So we just really don't know. Yeah, the whole criteria might change. I'm not going to say what, But if you dig enough around online or look at it, Washington Post, the New York Times, you know, things have been swirling around that they might change the whole thing as far as repayments concerned, or forgiveness rather.
Thank you for that, Kim. We're receiving all thank yous and much appreciated in the chat line. I think people really took well to your presentation today. It was easy to follow, simple to understand, very informative. So we appreciate your time, and we appreciate you hosting the webinar with RCI this afternoon.
Any last messages, Kim?
No, I just want to thank you guys. You folks are just awesome. I know that you know, it's a pretty scary time out there. And I think, you know, sometimes even to have the conversation, you know, some of the best conversations I've had through this whole process have been at, you know, 6:30 in the morning, because one of my clients is actually up and he knows that I'm up too. And just having that conversation, I think, is so very, very important. Make sure you get as much information as you can, even if there is none, but just to keep on top of it, because you're protecting your asset. And if you don't need the money, don't apply for it or don't take it. And that's it, truly. But if anybody has any questions, please go to my phone number that doesn't have all the digits, but it is 724-487-3852, or to shoot me an email if you have any questions, comments, concern, and I can help you out. Or if you just want to call and say, how am I going to get through this? I like those conversations too. They happen usually late at night or early in the morning, but sometimes that can help as well.
So one of our attendees online is asking, can you repeat your phone number again, please?
Sure, 724-487-3852. Now, I will tell you, my little phone fills up. I don't even know where it is. Oh, my little phone fills up pretty quickly, and my voicemail will say full, because now it's not so much today as it was when this program first rolled out, but I either call you back or you could even shoot me a text and say, hey, Kim, could you give me a call? I have a question. So, and sometimes I just arbitrarily redial the missed calls. So, you know, be prepared. I do think it's important to call people back.
Sounds good. We definitely appreciate you, you know, being able to help everybody that's in need during these interesting times, and taking those phone calls. Judy McNeil from our office at RCI wanted to extend a personal thank you today.
Oh, thank you, Judy.
Definitely. And we do want to take this time to plug in our Diversity Business Resource Center at dbrcpittsburgh.org. Please feel free to visit our website at riversidecenterforinnovation.com. Also, you can find us on Facebook at Riverside Center for Innovation. If you have any additional questions, you can reach me, James Myers Jr., Director of Community and Business Development at RCI. We're interested in your feedback, and we also want to do whatever we can possibly do to help you and continue to bring resources to small business owners. Take care, be well, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon.